Human rights groups are calling for an independent inquiry into the deaths of at least 27 migrants on the Spanish-Moroccan border. A preliminary investigation by Morocco has found that most of the victims likely suffocated when up to 2,000 people tried to storm the border in Melilla in late June. The tiny Spanish exclaves of Melilla and Ceuta are the European Union's only land borders with Africa, making them a focus for migrants and refugees. DW reporter Jan-Philipp Scholz travelled to Morocco and sent us this report, and a warning that some of our viewers may find images at the beginning of this report disturbing.
Moroccan border guards round up and attack people trying to get over the fence. Violence and contempt in a situation with no solution for either side. It's difficult to tell who is alive and who might be dead. Atroun was there that day.
They hit you even in the floor. They hit you so much, after you knock out, If you don't know anything, you can't move, they will leave you. If you can move, they will hit you till you can move.
We meet Atroun in the derelict school in Casablanca, where he's been living. He levels serious accusations against the Spanish police. He says he had already reached European territory where he was seeking asylum, but he maintains the officers forcibly deported him.
They send you back to the Moroccan. Sometimes they allow the Moroccan police to enter inside to pull you out.
Local journalist Javier Angosto was inside the Spanish city of Melilla when crowds stormed the border in June. He confirms Atroun's account.
I saw several dozen migrants manage to get over the border. They were illegally deported straight away. They didn't even have a chance to claim asylum. The Spanish police simply sent them back.
That's illegal under international law. Many of the migrants were from countries entitling them to refugee status in Europe. We put the claims to the head of the regional government.
There might be one or two cases. There have been many attempts to get across the border recently. We were all worried about the war, rising grain prices, and people going hungry. There are real consequences from all of that.
Melilla is a small city with a population of around 90,000. It's one of the few European territories which has a land border with Africa. Journalist Javier says Spain is happy to pay out millions to its African neighbors to keep migrants back from its border.
Morocco basically does our dirty work for us. We want to be seen as a beacon for human rights. This fence, for example, was previously a specially vicious type of razor-sharp barbed wire. Rights activists complained that the Spanish took it down. But then Spain just paid Morocco more money, and now exactly the same razor fence has gone up on the other side.
Several Spanish cities saw protests after the unrest on June 24. The Interior Minister now has to testify before the European Parliament. But the Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, has praised the security forces on both sides. Back in Morocco, Atroun remains undeterred. He's already tried 10 times to get into Spain, and he's ready for attempt number 11.
And for more on this story, I'm joined now from Brussels by DW correspondent Christine Mundwa. Christine, hi. We just saw some really disturbing footage in that report. What have the Moroccan and Spanish governments said about these deaths?
Well, the Moroccan officials have maintained that a lot of the people who died on that day died in the stampedes. 2,000 people attempted to cross the border on their day. They also say that some people fell to their deaths as they were climbing the very high fences to try and, of course, get across the border. But human rights groups that have collected first-hand accounts say that a lot of people who were injured in the clashes that spanned for a few hours as the this breach attempt went on, that they didn't get medical attention, and that could have made the difference for a lot of people who sustained serious injuries and might have actually succumbed to those. From the Spanish government side, the Prime Minister has said that this whole day was basically orchestrated by the mafia of people smuggling units who basically force people en masse to try and breach that border. And as we heard in the report there by Jan Philip Schultz, he praised the Moroccan security officials for helping to protect Spanish borders.
United Nations experts have backed calls for an inquiry. They're calling for more accountability from the Spanish and Moroccan governments. Give us a sense of what that would actually mean.
Well, the premise of that is really pertaining to the use of force. Of course, where there is the use of force by law enforcement officials, that has to operate within certain principles. And that is what the UN experts in particular are calling for, to understand to what extent was there the use of force and how could it have potentially played a role in the deaths that happened on that day. There is also the element of reparations to the families of the victims of those who lost their lives that day. So potentially what the UN experts are calling for is that there would have to be some kind of reparations to some of those victims, and it would be for these investigations to establish who would be responsible for taking care of that.
Christine, thanks for that. That's DW's Christine Mundwa in Brussels.